Today, friends, we're talking about Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown, which we are all super excited about, and hopefully getting super soon. Some more information would be very nice. But let's be pretty direct here and ask the question, when the heck are we getting this beautiful game? While the teaser trailers continue to roll out, and in fact, we actually have one coming out next week, July 6th. And if you want to see a little bit of a breakdown, details, everything about it, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll do it together, okay? But the trailer coming out next week would almost make you think, oh, is there a chance that it's going to get a release date? And is there a chance that it's coming out this year? Considering that there's been so many trailers and reveals and talks about. In fact, we actually heard about the game for the first time a year before, so you may hope and pray that it's going to come out this year. And today we're going to dive in and speak about if I think that's going to be true, and if not, when, what date, what are we expecting? When can we play this damn game? So the main trailer that we have actually seen is only a minute long, and it's the CGI trailer. Now, it's something I've noticed. Even if we go back to The Crew, there was a bunch of CGI style trailers for that game. It seems to be like a lot of the French studios seem to love CGI trailers that don't really show us what the gameplay or the game is going to properly look like. It's like Dreamland what it would look like. Even if you start up The Crew, it's got this, hey, even The Crew 2, in fact, actually, I didn't even think about that. The Crew 2 has one of those CGI trailers. Anyway, usually we see those quite a bit before we get anything actual physical gameplay, and I'm hoping that next week we will get some proper gameplay because I need it. The reason I bring up The Crew is it actually also has ties to the Test Drive franchise. It originates, it was birthed upon the idea, similar idea, that Test Drive was, and so big link. Anyway, just a quick side note actually of some more information to throw in here. This clip that I've got, I'm going to show you, don't you worry. When the game was announced in July last year, there was actually a little bit of a hint that they'd already finished, or mostly finished, the map in the game, which is pretty significant information.
To add more realism to Test Drive Unlimited, we created an island at a 1-for-1 scale.
Now, the map being mostly finished is pretty important information. You're like, oh, why is that, Theo? The map is just part of the game development. Well, the map in generally, from my knowledge, is usually one of the first things that you start when you work on an open world game like this. It takes the longest time to finish a map. And them saying, in the context, as long as, again, it might have been lost in translation, that type of thing, but it seems like the map, they know what they're doing, and is mostly finished to the point where it's usable. That gives us a better idea as to where they possibly are in terms of development. So based on the little information that we know, big games generally launch in November. That's the big month. That's the huge month, not a behemoth month. Of course, September to November is generally where they go. So do I expect them to announce that the game is coming out in 4-5 months time? Absolutely not. But that's what this video is about. When will they? WRC is their biggest franchise as of the moment for KT Racing, and of course that game is an annual series. We're on number 10 of WRC, and that game actually gets a September release, and that is their big game. Now, the reason I think they get a September release, it just makes sense for this type of game. You kind of want to avoid November because that's when the huge behemoths come out generally, so PlayStation, Xbox, and also Rockstar Games and all the big uns. November. So if you can avoid November, that's great. Of course, they're releasing in September, which is the same time as Forza generally releases. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they don't even care about that. But I'm going to stick with that because it just makes sense. Now, because this is a big project for them, they're building a test drive game almost from the ground up, other than just using the WRC engine and such, which of course helps a bloody load. But this is the first test drive project that they've ever really properly worked on as a team collective right now. It's safe to assume on the announcement of the game and the fact that it's coming out, it makes sense that they've already got a good year or two under the belt of work on this game. And I would say from experience, 3 years is a good time scale for a smaller game, and more so for a bigger scale game. It depends. But ultimately, with a project like this, it's got such a significant name. It's very, very rare that a studio would ever release something like this. They would normally just completely divert from the name. They would make a new one, especially when it was published and developed by other people previously. So they've got to live up to some huge expectations. Of course, I'm happy to wait. I would love it out ASAP. I would love if they said, it's out tomorrow, but that's just not realistic. It ain't going to happen. They got to advertise, the trains got to roll. They got to get the date in people's brains, the pre-orders. But as a huge test drive fan, I really want them to come out swinging. I want people to experience what test drive means to a lot of them, because a lot of the kids that play Forza and such today probably haven't even played or heard or really even remember a test drive experience. So I guess that's maybe a good thing. I'd be really frustrated if we didn't see the likes of the character customization, car customization, though not as aggressive. I'm not looking for Need for Speed levels. I want some. But ultimately, I want home purchasing, character clothing customization as such, multiple showrooms and multiple places where we can play together, experience together, like the casino in the previous. I want to see more things like that. We're communal areas. If we cannot walk around showrooms, I will be livid, angry, and frustrated, because that is such a cool experience, especially seeing other people walking around those cars as well. You want to just do a big flex, and there should be some like balloons that pop up when you're going to pick up your car. It's like just the whole RPG roleplay experience it could happen so well in this game, and no game manages to come close. With The Crew 2, Forza Horizon 5, and even Need for Speed Heat, these games have started to pour in some test drive-esque features only today. Like, they've had this drop-in, drop-out multiplayer and test drive for the longest time. But the buying of houses and the car showrooms and things like that were just not even thought about with test drive, and now only just coming to the game to try and catch up to that. They stay, and they know it. So let's get down to the business then. When do I think the game is actually going to release? When is the window? So the other games are WRC, TT Isle of Man, FIA Truck Racing. Again, FIA and I think Isle of Man have skipped. I don't know. But generally they're September, March, and July in the order of those that I just said them. So they're not against doing stranger releases. I'd say the summer release is an interesting release, but it does move you completely away from the end of the year. And if you can get your sale on at the end of the year after it being out for 6 odd months, you can make it fly off the shelves, especially. But I would be surprised if they tried to release it in November or September to November even. The end of the year release cycle next year, because Need for Speed is probably returning swinging. Like, we've been waiting a long time for that. Of course, Gran Turismo 7, Forza Motorsport, the reboot, both of those being built from the ground up, if you will. There's a possibility of even The Crew 3 or something crazy coming out of swinging from nowhere. So, that's the big boys. I don't expect them to do that. But because they're starting to hype it up, it makes you almost think, surely it could be sooner rather than later. And so I would say my safe estimate is going to be between March and July next year. Of course, not this year, because we're already almost... How are we over halfway through the year? I'd say those are my sensible dates, because surely they want to avoid those other games, but they could just completely ignore that and go, no, November as well, and everyone's out in November and we're all like, we have too many racing games, this is the best thing ever. There is a possibility that I could be off and they could even release in 2023 if they do miss the November time. For example, if they get to the end of the year and they're like, oh, we were going to release in November, but maybe we should wait. I think March the year after would be an even more sensible option. If they couldn't do that, if they can't do it before, please do it before. I am begging, I'm pleading. Of course, all this information is pre the trailer that's coming out next week. If the trailer next week gives us a release date, I mean, I'm just gonna put this to bed. Like, that would just literally put this to bed. And that's really what I hope to see. I doubt we're gonna get a release date. If we don't, it's pretty 1,000,000% certain that we're not getting it very, very soon. So what do you guys think? Do you think they'll run head first into this and for a 2022 November release against all the odds and smash out? And I mean, it's just not as a big a franchise as the others. Or do you think they'll get in before those games with a possible March or summer next year release? I kind of pray that that's the case, because that would be perfect. Or do you think I'm totally wrong and it's out next week and I am a giant baboon and I'm wrong? I'm pretty certain that next year, March to summer, is likely the window that they're aiming for It just makes sense. As I said, let me know. I'll see you next week for the test drive trailer. Be sure to smash like, subscribe if you are new, and I'm ready. Until next time, peace.